has been really, really interesting. I mean, this is probably the most thought-provoking peak. Well, usually we talk about like animals fighting in arenas and what it would be like if the best baseball team played the best football team in hockey and what we would do with $1 trillion. And this is the first PKA where there's been so much information that I'll be sitting in bed tonight and be like, but is my room clean? Oh, fuck, probably not if I'm thinking about it. Like
you're like, is my room set up to do the things that I need to do?
It's a really interesting question to ask yourself, when you start to look at if you see, we do have what we perceive in the world, we don't perceive things in the world. That isn't how our brains work. We perceive tools and obstacles. And we don't perceive anything that isn't either a tool or an obstacle. And it isn't that we see things and think of them as tools or obstacles. That's wrong. This is direct perception. It's direct eye-to-brain perception. It even circumvents consciousness. So, for example, when you look at a cup, your eyes map the shape of the cup onto the neural circuits that constitute your grip. And so part of your understanding of how big that cup is from the felt sense of how you would array your body to pick it up. And that's direct perception. And so your room, you think about it as a location or a territory, but it isn't. It's an array of tools and obstacles. And if you have it set up to optimize the tool-like function, then when you walk into your room, that makes you powerful. It's direct perception. And so to go into your room and to think, okay, I'm going to set myself up in here. Like, I'm setting myself up. I want everything in this room to be directed towards my aim. Then every time you walk in there, the room reminds you of your aim as well. So it's really a worthwhile meditative exercise because it's a finite domain too, which is kind of cool because it means you can actually get it perfect. Right? You can set it up so absolutely every single thing is in the location that it should be in.
This line of thinking,
ridiculously useful exercise,
completely excuses how frustrated I get when my wife borrows tools and doesn't put them back.
Yeah, well, it's direct perception. It's exactly right because it's
She's
exactly
sabotaging me. That witch.
You don't have to beat her that hard, though. I've always said a firm word would get the job done.
The rule of thumb is a thing for a reason.
Yeah.
And I guess like your room, as you age or have different priorities and evolve in what you're trying to achieve in life, you may be like, well, I thought my room was clean, but new responsibilities and whatnot have made it that I have to adapt even further.
Now, you could say the same thing about the psychological structures that you inhabit. It's like something can be good one week and then outdated the next. The other thing that means is that you have to get rid of things. You have to sacrifice the things that you've been clinging to that are now in your way. And you see that this failure to have that happen often take people over as they get older and their houses get more and more cluttered. And they're cluttered with decisions that haven't been made and sacrifices that haven't been undertaken. And so, I mean, it's very easy to have that happen, but it's not good and it ages you. So,
obviously, it helped, like different things impact different people. Like some people might be drug addicts or, have an anxiety disorder, who knows. Is there like a big one you feel, like an umbrella that kind of encompasses everyone, that like maybe procrastination or something like that?
Avoidance, yeah. And that manifests itself in part as procrastination. It manifests it sometimes as well in a proclivity just to not look. You'll see, like if you walk into your room and you pay careful attention, you will see that there are parts of it that you don't want to look at. Those are the parts you should look at. So you'll be comfortable looking at some places and uncomfortable looking at others. And that's because you haven't looked at those places enough. And it's the places that you're uncomfortable looking that you should attend to. That's another part of Jungian psychoanalytic doctrine, essentially, which is the thing that you want most will be found where you least want to look.
That's so unbelievably true. Like when my room physically, like, or my closet or something, I walk in there and it's covered in clothes. Like my first instinct isn't let's tidy this up. It's get out of here. Let's get out of here. This is stressful, and I don't want. I want to be able to pretend it doesn't exist.
It's because the snake detecting part of your brain is detecting the emergence of chaos in the order of your room, because the world really is made out of order and chaos. That's the most fundamental level of reality. That's yin and yang, by the way. But so you walk into your room and there's order and chaos, and where the chaos is creeping forward, sort of unbeknownst to you, or because you're not paying attention, then you're going to want to look away, because that's where the snakes are. And it's the part of your brain that does the snake detection that doesn't want to look there.
What do you say to people who say their messy desk is a sign of their productivity, that their messy room is their environment instead of just how it works for them?
It's highly, look, people often make virtues out of their vices, but you should assume the worst when it comes to being useless. Like, if you have a messy desk, it's possible that it's because you're this sort of remarkable creature that has subordinated that mess to a higher purpose. But it's more probable that you just have a messy desk and you're rationalizing it. And
yeah, I think really, there are millions of messy desks, and then there's like 3 guys who are actually Leonardo da Vinci, and they need everything spread out, because he's going to need to look over there at that drawing of man he did to figure some stuff out for his flying contraption he's rigging up for the Pope, some people have some stuff on the plates.
Well, like right now, I mean, if you're a creative person, there are intermediary stages of chaos. Like my room right now is a complete disaster, but that's because I've taken all my old electronics out and put them on the floor, and I'm rebuilding my computer. And so but I wouldn't call that mess functional. I would call it a step on the road to making the thing more functional. So it's useful. I mean, I think that you should have some regard for yourself as a logos-bearing entity, let's say, but it's very useful to be skeptical about your claims to virtue if they're allied with a vice,
That same feeling you're describing of like the snake part of your brain, now I'm trying to think about it more, and I feel like that same stress of trying to get away from a dirty closet is similar to that feeling of like you're looking down at the triple cheeseburger you're about to eat, and you know that you shouldn't be doing that it's bad, and you made a plan to not do this, and you just kind of just forge ahead. And then, 20 minutes after you've finished, you go, I'll be better next time. The me of right now would handle it perfectly. It's like, yeah, because you're full. Like,
there's a great Simpsons episode that dealt with that. So Homer, I think he's in the garage, and he drinks a quart of mayonnaise and vodka. and Marge takes him to task for it, and he says, "That's a problem for future Homer. I sure wouldn't want to be that guy."
That really is. Yeah, you're just mortgaging your future. It's like drinking too much. You're like borrowing happiness from the next morning so that you can get a little more the night before.
That's what going into debt is like. When you buy a new car, when you whatever, finance and put something on your credit card, you're just borrowing against your future. Future you is going to work your butt off for this thing that you just got.
Future you, that miserable entity.
People have so much confidence in the future version of themselves to do things that the present and past version was just like, well, no, I didn't start working out last year or in 2014 or 2013 or 2012, but this is the year. Future me can afford this tray of brownies right now. It's that exact same thing. But, yeah, that is a really useful heuristic to look at the world through. The whole keep your room clean. Like, if you feel like self-conscious about something that you're not doing, then you're probably not in a position where you should be dictating how others live.
Yeah, well, to go back to that prison story, because you guys asked me about when I started to become careful with language, and that was about the time that I had undergone those experiences, and part of that was to see if I could tie that together properly. I realized that there was a lot of things I didn't know about myself. And at the same time, I realized that a lot of what I was saying wasn't true. I didn't believe it, or I didn't have the right to say it. Because sometimes you can learn things, that you can parrot, but you don't have the right to say them because you're parroting them. And I became quite aware of a split in myself at that point that was in some way initiated by this experience that I had out at the prison. I knew that there was a bunch about me that I didn't know, and I became more aware of the weaknesses and vagaries of my character. And that seemed to manifest itself first in this realization that many of the things I said weren't things I believed. They were things I was kind of like the raping orangutan, you know. I was using words to manipulate the world, to get what I wanted. And that isn't what you should use your words for. You should use your words to represent the world as accurately as you possibly can. And that's way different, you know. That's way different. And I think that's the fundamental element of faith in a Christian sense. But it doesn't have to be in a Christian sense. And that is to speak truth about the nature of existence and let things take their course as a consequence. That's faith. That's different than using your words to manipulate the world to get what you want. So you state what you believe to be true and let the world unfold as a consequence. But that's a very exciting way to live because you never know what the hell's going to happen. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean just use the truth as a grenade. It doesn't mean that, you know, that's not sophisticated. Yeah. But to state what you see happening and then to watch what happens when you state that, that's ridiculously adventurous.
Yeah, you could either totally collapse or you could be the first person to successfully monetize SJW protests. It's up in the air. You know?
Yeah, or both could happen at the same time, which is kind of what happened to me this year because, you know, it's been...
Yeah.